Under the wide Montana sky, nestled between rolling fields and a winding creek, sat a modest farm run by a woman who kept to herself. Her name was Claire Donovan. She was a single mother raising her 10-year-old son, Matthew, while tending to chickens, a small herd of goats, and a vegetable patch that barely covered the bills. To the neighbors, she was quiet, polite, and unassuming, just another struggling farmer in a county where land disputes and grudges simmered like an old kettle that never cooled. But Claire had a past no one suspected. Once, she had worn the uniform of the U.S. Army Special Forces. She had trained with men who could endure days without sleep, crawl through mud with snakes slithering past, and take shots at distances that most couldn't imagine. As a Green Beret sniper, she had seen combat in deserts and mountains far away, and she had done her job with a calm precision that earned her respect. Then, she had walked away from that life after losing her husband, also a soldier, in a convoy attack. With Matthew just a toddler then, she had traded bullets for barns, combat boots for work gloves, and silence for the laughter of her boy. The peace of her new life lasted until the summer when a group of men decided her land should be theirs. It started small, a broken fence post here, tire ruts carved into her fields there. She thought little of it at first, kids joyriding maybe, or hunters passing through without respect for boundaries. Then came the threatening notes, scrawled in thick black marker on paper stuffed into her mailbox: "Sell the farm while you can." And, "This land isn't yours to keep." Claire burned the notes in the wood stove without telling Matthew. Fear was something she had learned to control a long time ago. But she kept her rifle closer, cleaning it at the kitchen table after her boy had gone to bed. The men came one evening just after sundown, 3 trucks rolling up the gravel drive with headlights cutting across the fields. They parked crooked, doors slamming, voices rising with drunken laughter. Claire stood on the porch with her arms crossed, the setting sun painting the horizon blood orange. "Evelyn, sweetheart," the leader drawled, a heavy-set man with a beard streaked in gray. His name was Hank Mallory, a rancher whose land bordered hers. He had always eyed her property like a wolf studies a wounded deer. "We figured we'd come by, let you know that it ain't worth hanging on to this little patch. We'll make you a fair deal, or else." Claire's eyes were steady, her voice calm. "You're trespassing, Hank. Get back in your trucks." His grin widened, as if he'd expected resistance. 2 of his buddies walked toward the barn, rattling the doors, laughing as they kicked at the wood. Another circled the chicken coop, sending the hens into a panicked clamor. "Or else, what?" Hank said, stepping onto her porch. Claire didn't answer. She didn't need to. She only shifted her weight slightly, her right hand loose at her side where he couldn't see the small pistol resting against her hip beneath the hem of her flannel shirt. Her breathing slowed, her body recalling years of training where hesitation meant death. "You've had your fun," she said evenly. "Leave now, and don't come back." The men laughed again, but something in her tone, something colder than steel, made Hank falter. Still, he spat on her porch and waved for his men to retreat. "We'll be back, sweetheart. You can't fight what's coming." When the trucks rumbled away, Claire stayed on the porch until the taillights vanished into the trees. Only then did she allow herself a single breath of relief. But she knew it wasn't over. 2 nights later, they returned. This time they weren't drunk, they were deliberate. The sound of boots, crunching on gravel woke Claire, and she slipped from bed without turning on a light. She moved like a shadow through the house, pulling her rifle from its case. Through the upstairs window, she counted 6 men, flashlights cutting across her yard. 1 carried a can of gasoline. They were going to burn her out. Claire's heart was steady, her mind razor sharp. She checked the bolt of her rifle, chambered around, and slid the window open just enough to fit the barrel through. She whispered to herself, a mantra she had learned long ago: slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. The first shot shattered the night. The can of gasoline dropped as the man carrying it screamed, clutching his shoulder. Chaos erupted, flashlights jerking wildly as the others dove for cover behind their trucks. "Jesus Christ, she's shooting at us," one shouted. Claire's voice rang out, cold and commanding: "You step 1 foot closer to my house, and I won't miss the second time." The men froze, suddenly realizing the quiet farm woman was not the victim they had imagined. Hank cursed, yelling at the others to get down. Claire's scope found him where he crouched by the driver's side of his truck. She squeezed the trigger again, and a round slammed into the dirt inches from his boot. He flinched, pale even in the dark. "You don't know who you're messing with," he shouted, though his voice trembled now. Claire lowered the rifle just enough to be heard but not seen. I know exactly who you are, Hank Mallory. You're a coward hiding behind numbers. But I've dealt with worse men than you. Leave now, or I'll end this tonight. Silence followed, then the sound of retreat, boots pounding, truck doors slamming. Engines roared, gravel sprayed, and soon the night was quiet again. Claire didn't sleep until dawn. The sheriff came later that morning after someone, perhaps one of Hank's wounded men, called in a report. He walked the property with Claire, saw the bloodstains on the dirt, the bullet casings by her porch. He asked questions, took notes, but when Claire's gaze met his, steady and unwavering, he seemed to understand. He'd heard rumors about her past, whispers about combat and medals never spoken of. We'll keep an eye on things, he said finally. But I don't think they'll bother you again. He was right. Word spread quickly in the small county. About how the quiet widow had stood her ground against half a dozen men. About the precision of her warning shots, how not a single one had struck fatal but all had landed close enough to rattle bones. No one knew the full truth, that she had once been a sniper trained to hold her breath for 90 seconds, to account for wind speed and bullet drop, to end lives with the squeeze of a trigger. That part of her story remained hers alone. Life on the farm went on. Claire gathered eggs, milked goats, tended to her son's homework, and patched the barn door where Hank's men had kicked it in. She didn't talk about that night with Matthew, only told him in a gentle voice that some people didn't understand respect, and that they had to be strong enough to remind them. But sometimes, when the moon was bright and the fields were silver, she sat on the porch with her rifle across her lap. The crickets sang, the creek whispered, and she watched the tree line with eyes that missed nothing. Claire Donovan wasn't looking for trouble. But if it came again, she was ready.